Hi everybody, it's Claire back with another art journal video, and again I'm playing with Dina's latest release, or some of it, playing with the 3 neon colours that I received and the collage paper and stencils. So this time I'm in the white 6-inch journal, and here I'm just adding some white gesso onto my page, but you can see I've just managed to collect too much gesso. I always do. So I'm just spreading that around and just getting rid of a little bit of the excess. So I'm doing this because the paper in the white journal reacts much better if it's got this layer of preparation in place before you start adding the paints on. So once that's dry, actually no, it's still wet. It's still wet, ignore that comment. It's still wet, and I'm going straight in with the neon paints. So when you add white to a paint colour, it creates a tint. So here I am just playing with what happens with these lovely translucent neon colours when you add them to white, and you can see they create the prettiest colour, which you can then layer up and darken by just adding more on top. Really pretty. So that pink was stoked, and then I'm going in with Legit and doing the same thing, and so you can see where it's mixing. It's really pretty. It just tones it right back and makes it such a pretty gentle colour, really. Doing the same over here, mixing it in and not worrying too much about it overlapping with the pink stoked colour that's on there already. I'm just gently pulling that through the white gesso, which, as I said, is still wet and not dry. So this paintbrush was getting ready for a bit of a clean. So there was one of the layers that I did where I ended up making some really cool brush marks in the gesso and the neon paint, and I really liked it. It was really pretty. So sometimes these happy little accidents are worth celebrating. So here I'm just adding some of that bodacious over the top. Here you can see those brush marks there in the paint. I really liked that. It was really pretty. So I left them because I liked that effect. I thought it was really cool. So here I'm just overlapping the colours as well, just to see what happens when they lay on top of each other, particularly when they're in this kind of subtle tint on the page. And I thought this was so pretty. So it's worth just having a play how these colours behave when you mix them with white as well. So here I'm just going in with one of the stencils. This one is called Coasters 1, and I think that is a little bit of orchid. I really didn't want it to be that dark. I pulled the stencil off and I was like, oh my days, that is really dark, but we'll go with it. It's okay, I can make this work. So it was okay. All was not lost, but I did not intend for it to go in that dark over the top of those really pretty tints of neon colours that are on the background already. So I'm going in next with Heather, and I'm adding some of that over the top just to try and calm that very bold orchid down. It was really interesting actually seeing which of the pinks and purples worked nicely in a harmonious way with the pink of the stoked neon colour. And it's only when you start putting these colours next to each other that you realise quite how different they are in terms of what is mixed in them to make the colour, whether they've got more blue or not. So yeah, it was fun doing that. So here then I'm just extending that stenciling a little bit more because it felt a little bit blocky. So I'm just continuing to line that stencil up, using my blending tool to put the paint through. And then here I'm going in with Stoked again, just on its own with the Coasters 2 stencil, and just overlapping that stenciling again. So yeah, you can see that's very sheer and translucent how it applies to the page. But it's just about playing and learning how these things behave and how they work on top of each other and on top of other colours as well. Next, I am using some of the new collage paper. This is from the pack called Grids, and I'm just selecting a piece to go and use on my page, and I've gone with one that's got quite a small pattern on it because the stenciling that I've used is quite small as well, so I kind of felt that would work quite well together. So I'm just layering these on. One of the things that I really love about Dina's collage paper is when you get it properly stuck down, it just melts into your page, it disappears, and you can then still see the layers underneath through the collage paper. So it is worth just spending a bit of time making sure you've got enough of your matte medium or whatever it is you use on your background first before you stick the collage paper over the top, and then applying some more over the top just to help it melt into your page or whatever it is you're creating. So I'm just layering these on, trying to sort of just intuitively go with where I feel the page is balanced if I add it in. Just creating another layer of interest. So this is called Connected Dots, this stencil. I have looked it up since the last video where I used it and I couldn't remember what it was called. And here I am going in with white, just to pull a bit of white back into the page because I've managed to fill the entire spread. This is a good way to add white back in if you, like me, sometimes struggle to leave white space. And like I said before, this stencil is brilliant because of those circle shapes, because they act as a mask. Means that you will have nice pieces of your background peeping through, whilst it also breaks up the page as well. So I'm just adding some areas of stenciling on my page using this and some white paint. So this is the face from the Make Things Happen stamp set, and I'm just going to stamp it onto a piece of white cardstock using some black archival ink. This is going to be my focal point on this page, making sure I get plenty of ink on there before I stamp it on the card. Not always the best at stamping images. I think I've done really well and I've got plenty of ink on there and it'll stamp and it's really rubbish. So I'm trying to be better with this. Giving it a good press down. There we go, it's not too bad. I've also recently re-inked my ink pad, so that has really made a good difference. So here I'm going to stick this head and shoulders onto a piece of the typed ledger papers. So I'm going to give this figure a body and then cut this out, and this is going to be stuck onto my page as my focal point, as I said. I have definitely got favourite sets of things that I do reach for time and time again. I don't think there's anything wrong with that really, because they kind of speak in a way that means I find it easy to be creative with them. So I don't worry about the fact that this face often appears on my journal pages, or I often use similar stencils. I don't think it matters really. I think it's more about the creative process and making sure that you're enjoying that and it's serving the purpose that you need it to. So once I've stuck that in place, I've then outlined it with a Stabilo oil pencil, gone over some of those lines, and here I'm just going in with some mineral paint just to make that body shape feel like it belongs. And I caught some of the Stabilo pencil, but really liked how it looked pulled out into the paint, so then deliberately did it and just pulled it out a bit more. And it did definitely create a little bit of depth into that lovely grey of the mineral paint. Okay, so once that was done and dry, I then moved on to the next part. So I'm using the arrows from the same stamp set with some turquoise paint. As you can see, that didn't stamp particularly well. You see what I said about stamping? I don't know why. I'm going back in and just adding loads more paint, so there is going to be absolutely no doubt that that's going to stamp, and just going over that again, and then going to use this just to add another layer. So this turquoise is going to work well on my page because of the colours that are on there already, but also it's going to act as a little bit of a contrast with everything else that's going on. So yeah, just adding some of those on there as well. So they're kind of directional, this stamp, and I'm using it to sort of point at the figure on my page. And then making sure that was all completely dry, I'm then using a thin Posca pen, and I'm just drawing in some lines where I'm going to excuse me, do my writing. So with these pages that I've done, apart with the exception of one, which I haven't shared with you yet, I have really tried to let the neon paints do the work, and unusually for me, haven't kind of gone overboard with all the extra bits and bobs that I like to add on my pages. So once I'd done this writing on my page, I added a few dots, and I do mean a few, you'll be surprised. And then that was really it for this page. Like I say, really wanted the neon paints to sing, and particularly playing with them as a tint like I did on this page by adding them to white gesso. It created that lovely soft feel that even though I've stenciled over the top, it still feels quite different to the page that I shared yesterday. So here I'm just using a bit of Bodacious and some white, and splattering some of that onto my page, and then I'm going to do the same with the Stoked and add some splatters of that too. And you can see I've added like 3 little areas of black dots using my Posca pen as well onto my page. And that is pretty much it for this page. So another one created using Dina's latest release. Having lots of fun playing with this. I hope you found some inspiration again from this page. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I hope to see you again soon.